Hey guys, it's James here with the Fantasy Football Cockpit, bringing you all Week 2 fantasy relevant players for the Houston Texans. I know last week the Houston Texans surprised a lot of people, myself included, but I know they probably surprised you guys a little bit more. So I'm going to give you a few players that I think are relevant for Week 2. Davis Mills, definitely viable in 2 QB leagues and Superflex. He's a guy I think could be a top 15 QB this week, especially when Geno Smith was able to put up 21 fantasy points against this Denver Broncos team, mostly in the first half. I think Davis Mills can give you the whole game worth of fantasy points, so I think he can bust 21 points open easily. Looking at the running backs, I'm not as confident in Rex Burkhead and Dameon Pierce. Rex Burkhead, a guy, I think if you're in PPR leagues, you can start him as an RB2 with some confidence. He's going to give you maybe 5 more catches again, plus whatever yards he can put on the ground. Rashad Penny did look good, gouging this Denver defense for 5 yards a carry last week. So I think he could possibly break the double-digit points in PPR. But Dameon Pierce might get a bit more of a role this week, although I don't think he's going to break out. They might kind of vulture from each other, so they're a little bit, not so much an obvious start for me, but maybe in PPR leagues, Rex Burkhead is an RB2 or a desperate flex position. Wide receivers, you're starting Brandon Cooks. There's nothing about it. He's a super reliable guy. He's always going to get it done for you, especially against this team with Davis Mills. They'll have to keep up. I expect Denver to get their stuff together. Russell Wilson's going to try and cook, and I think Davis Mills can try his best to keep up, and Cooks is going to be the guy he's going to lean on. Nico Collins is another guy that's going to have to step up if the Texans plan to keep this one close, and I think they will. Nico Collins is a big body receiver who wowed us in preseason a bit, and I think he could really show that this week. Looking at the tight ends, they're a bit interesting. The tight ends gouged this Denver defense last week for both of their touchdowns and over 40 yards each with 3 catches each. This is a similar team with a defense that has 3 tight ends that could be viable, but O.J. Howard catching 2 passes, both for touchdowns, maximum efficiency. He's a guy that I think if you took your tight end very late in the draft and you plan on streaming them every week, he is a guy you could stream this week. Brevin Jordan and Pharaoh Brown, maybe not the best options, though if one of them were to catch a touchdown, it wouldn't surprise, but honestly, I don't think that's going to make them worth starting in fantasy leagues this week. Kaimi Fairbairn's a good kicker for those that still have him in those leagues. Start him with confidence. Houston Texans defense, maybe not the defense you want to start this week. I think there's going to be some better matchups, although Seattle Seahawks did put up almost 9 fantasy points last week with a few takeaways on this Denver team. I expect them to get some stuff figured out, but I do think Houston had as many takeaways as Seattle last week against a better Colts offensive line, and I think they can do it again this week. Someone that's not going to lose you your week, but maybe not win you a week. I'm probably thinking about 8 to 11 fantasy points. That's where the Houston Texans should line up. Follow the Bulls on Parade group as I'm in there, going to try and give more details on more players that you guys care about. There's also a lot of other great content creators making some groups for their respective teams. Be sure to follow them all in the Fantasy Football Network app, and I'll see you in Week 3.